Hey guys, it's JW, and thought I'd jump on for a couple of minutes. Actually, I got about 5 or 6 minutes before I have to get out of the car and head over to the crosswalk. And I was just talking to a kid at the middle school. I talk to the kids every time they come out. Yeah, just small talk, how was your day? The usual stuff. But today, the kid looked a little down, and I said, "What's going on?" And he said, "I think this schedule's really messing my life up." And I said, "Which schedule are you talking about? Do you have a lot of activities?" He goes, "No." He said, "I can't keep track of when we're going to school and when we're off." Now, most kids like to be off, and I'm sure this kid is no different. But he was complaining because, and it's true, I got to think about it after he left, that every week we're off of something. It's either we're off or an early release. It's either a holiday, or yesterday was a professional day, which is when the teachers, I know some teachers, I have teachers in my family, so they put them in like some sort of a media room. And this is at least what 2 members of my family told me they do. I'm not sure if all schools do it this way, and they watch video of certain things. Like recently, one of them told me they had to watch a video, and it ran all day, on white privilege. Now, come on. Can we make better use of our time than teachers spending the day watching videos on white privilege, and the kids are off? Maybe the kids could have went to school that day, and actually the teachers could have had lessons planned, and it could have been a normal school day. And listen, are there issues with society? There are so many issues with society that maybe we could do better, but none of us are responsible for our gender or our the color of our skin. We were born that way, and sure, there are people who have privilege. They were born into wealthy families or families with connections or whatever. That's just the luck of the draw. You can't remedy that. It's been that way since the beginning of time. Okay, and so as many stories as you hear of someone getting ahead in life because of the connections they had, I also hear a lot of stories about people who came here with nothing and made and became very successful. When I used to sell advertising, I sold advertising for the Boston Globe newspaper. That was it was actually my first job. I started as just a messenger boy, and worked my way up and became a salesman. And I had a client who owned a very famous restaurant in Boston. It was called Anthony's Pier 4. And Anthony came from Albania, the owner, and he was telling me, he said, "John, I came here when I was 9 years old." He said, "I love this country." And I said, "Wow, 9 years old. Did both your parents come with you? And any He goes, "No, I came alone." He said, "My parents put me on a boat, gave me a few coins." He said, "I pretty much had nothing but the clothes on my back." And I said, "My God, how did you survive?" And he goes, "Well, I was fortunate." He said there was a couple that took me under their wing, a guy, and him and his wife were very kind to me, and they took me in. And he ended up being the founder of one of Boston's most famous restaurants. Like I said, Anthony's Pier 4. It was where, if you were going to Boston back in the 60s, 70s, even 80s, and you were coming into Boston and you wanted to meet clients or whatever, that was the place you would take them. It was right on the water in Boston, and the food was really, really well done. And Anthony was a hard guy to work with. I used to observe him, to work for, and he was very tough on his help. And I asked one of the waitresses, she goes, yeah, he's not the easiest guy to work for. But she said, we make a lot of money. And she said, one of the reasons we make good money as wait staff is because he keeps us hustling. She said, but I make a very good living. She said, I don't even have a high school education. And if it weren't for Anthony, I wouldn't be able to live the lifestyle that I live. So here's a guy, 9 years old, comes to this country and, makes something of himself. So I'm not certain that some of these professional days are necessary to improve anyone's life. And I always figured that a professional day probably was, the teachers were learning new skills to pass on to the kids, to teach to the kids. But when I heard what really goes on, I was kind of upset. But at the same time, it is what it is. There's a lot of things that go on in society that you and I can't change. It's there, here in Massachusetts, it's extremely political. Everything is political. Nobody gets much of a job with the state or the city unless you have a connection, unless you know someone. You got to be real lucky to get a city or state job in Massachusetts if you don't know someone. Okay, and everyone knows that. And I remember when I was younger, a friend of mine got a state job because his uncle was some sort of a state representative or something, and I was a little envious. And I said, "You lucky son of a gun." And he goes, "I know." He said, "I am lucky." He said, "It's a real good job." And he was there for, as far as I know, he's retired from the state of Massachusetts, and he always made good money, and it was a good job. But as I got older, I realized that's the way life works. He had connections. My parents didn't have connections. So, but I did okay. I did okay. I just did what everyone did back then. You do your best. You hear of a job opening, you go for it. But anyway, I was thinking that when I was talking to this kid today about how discombobulated everyone's schedule is today, with parents running back and forth. They can't keep track of what's going on with the early releases and the days off, unscheduled days off. And anyway, that's my gripe for the day. I thought I'd jump on and talk to you about it. And hope all's going well with you. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon.